I've been living alone for the most part my entire adult life. There have been times when I have lived with others, and those were intentional choices, and I have enjoyed those choices tremendously. But it's very different than living alone. Living alone provides you with the energy and the space, really, to become the best version of you. So now, if you are living alone for the first time and you're a little apprehensive, or maybe you've been living alone for a while and you're just tired of it, stick with me and I'll show you 5 things I have done to make this the space, the place, and the time for me to live my best life. Hey, if we haven't met, my name is Kelly. I'm a 60-something Jersey girl who has been through quite a few ups and downs in her life. And I founded Brain Flower because I think those of us over a certain age really need a place to appreciate the positivity and things that we could do at this stage of the game, no matter what life throws our way, which is crazy now. So, getting back to living alone. The first thing I had to realize was I needed to shift my perspective from being alone to living with me. Living with my best friend, my constant companion, my great advisor. This can be terrifying, and sometimes it is still terrifying, because for the most part, you realize not only do you have all of the freedoms, hey, popcorn for dinner, sure, but you have all of your fears and demons as well. But the difference is, now you're doing it in a place without external noise. You can really reflect, think it through, take action. It is a very empowering feeling when you realize that being solo doesn't mean you're alone. So in this new space of yours, I'm going to ask you to consider to do my second shift, which is to create emotional anchors throughout your home. I don't care if you're in a studio apartment or if you're in a big house. An emotional anchor is a little bit different than just redecorating. I want you to think about what the experience is like when you go into a fine restaurant, a hotel, even a church. These beautiful, amazing public spaces go out of their way to greet us and embrace us when we come through the door. So often in our own homes, we are just very practical. We want a place right inside the front door where we can drop the dog leash, drop some groceries, our handbag, look at the mail. And I'm not saying that's important, because that's important. But what would it be like if instead of just doing the practical, your home actually said hello to you and it gave you a happy reason to be there? So the way I do that is I like to have coming through my front door a little seasonal welcome. For me right now, this time of year, it's a glass pumpkin and a couple of pumpkins on a table. That just gives me a little bit of a smile, recenters me into what is going on in the world outside, and it's a little bit of a welcome mat, maybe even a little bit of a red carpet that says, hey, you are home. Take a deep breath and relax. When you enter a place that treats you warmly, it's less about coming home to an empty house or empty apartment. And it's more like walking into a space that's excited to see you. It's filled with energy. It wants you to be there. And you know what? You want to be there. It's a little thing, but it's a little thing with great impact. My third suggestion is to rethink how energy flows in your space. So for me, that is about music, and not just music like what I would listen to in the car, but just sound design in general. You will often find in my living room, even while I'm not home, a YouTube video playing that has beautiful scenes of nature and some classical music or some folk music playing low over it. My cat really loves it when I leave on some birds and squirrels. But still, that sound of nature or that video of nature just kind of warms up the house, and it makes me feel good when I walk into it. Nature and music may not be your thing, and maybe energy for you is lights. Maybe you can have some lights pre-programmed so that you can walk into your house and it's, again, just warm and inviting. And there's a little bit of a vibe going on where you're like, hey, here I am. But it also creates that energy in the house for you that greets your energy when you come home. You don't want to have to come home from whatever went on in the outside world and have to warm up a space. Let the space be warm and energetic for you. My third suggestion, and this is regarding your space, is to think about it not just in terms of practicality, but in terms of joy, and to swap things around in a way that works for you and doesn't necessarily have to work for anyone else. I am talking to you now in my home office. This is my home office. It's my craft room. It's my art room. It's a place where I do reading, a place where I draw. And this room, which has 2 beautiful windows in it, used to be my guest room. And like most of our guest rooms, it doesn't go utilized most of the time. So I swapped out my other office, which was much smaller, and now it's a very cozy and beautiful guest room. And now I have my home office and all of Kelly's activities here in this bigger space. And I just love it. Now, changing rooms is not always practical for everybody. So I am also going to give you some suggestions on how you can rearrange for joy in a smaller scale. I remember a colleague of mine when I worked in advertising who just bought a small condo in Manhattan and had the office come and remove his stove, his range, which I thought was crazy. But he told me quite frankly that if he can't microwave it, he's not cooking it. And he eats out 3 meals a day anyhow in New York City as a single guy. And he really wanted to use the space where the oven and range used to be for books. And even though I thought that was quirky as all get out at the time, I can really appreciate now how he made a decision for himself. I made a much less controversial decision in my house. If you come into my living room, I don't have a coffee table. I have a movable ottoman that I can use as a coffee table. I could use it as extra seating if I need to. But the space there in the middle of my living room, I love to have because, again, I may be turning on the television and doing a stretching workout or doing a Pilates workout, which I love to do. Or even just sitting on the floor and playing with my cats. That is something I really enjoy. And now my space works for me and I don't have to, stick myself in a little corner because, no one puts baby in the corner. My 5th piece of advice is actually something that inspired me from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't read it, it's really worthwhile. He even has a great newsletter where he sends you a quote a day or a thought a day. James Clear does not even know I'm alive, so I'm not sponsored or supported by him in any way. But his notion of creating habits of doing things on a routine is what actually creates success. So I've adopted that in a small way into my home. There are a few things that I always used to do, but now I just routinely do them. For instance, I wake up and my bed is made within the first 5 or 10 minutes of me waking up. It is something I just get out of the way. It's before I take a shower, before I stumble into the kitchen. It is the first thing I do in the morning. I also started setting a few other routines. I noticed that I'm truly a morning person. Now I recognize that only half the world is a morning person. So if you're a nighttime person, just take what I'm going to say and turn it upside down. My most productive hours are in the morning. My brain is the clearest. I have the most energy. So I had to shift all the things that I wanted to get done in the day for me not the things I have to do for other people, not my job, not any other kinds of responsibilities, not even like volunteering. All the stuff I want to do for myself. That could be working out. That could be doing a little meal prep in the morning. Now I'm taking my lunch every day, which is something I didn't do on a regular. I often bought lunch. I hate to admit it, but it's true. I also now have programmed myself to get up an hour earlier. So I wake up at about 5:15 every day on purpose because I have to leave the house by 7:30, and that extra hour belongs to me. So whatever I want to do, creative projects, I go to the gym, I write or meditate. Sometimes I might even plan my workday in a space that just belongs to me when I have the most intention. This is, of everything, been the biggest game changer. Now, I still have a few other routines I need to work on, so I am not miss routine, miss structure. But if you think about it, every big building, every big business plan has an outline, has a structure, has intention. So I just took that thinking and shrunk it down and am making it work for me. And now I could do it without worrying about my responsibilities to everybody else. And that is really the most unique thing about living at home. Because while you might be afraid in the beginning and fearful, and then you might feel this crazy, dizzying sense of freedom. Like literally one night I came home and had a Slim Fast and a glass of wine for dinner. I do not recommend that, but that's where my head was at the time. Now I realize that I have this time to really mold and fashion for me to become the best person I can be right now, the best person I can be on this earth, to live with intention the life I want to live. And I think that is the biggest gift, not the freedom, not the ability to escape responsibility, but the new responsibility that you have to yourself. That is the biggest gift of going solo. I talk about living alone, and I talk about things that affect us when we're in our 50s, 60s, and beyond. And up there, that's a video you might like to see. I highly recommend you stick with it. Give me some comments about what you think living alone has been like for you. Work through it. And if you're so motivated to like and subscribe, that's awesome. We're still a new channel. But I would love it if you also would leave me a comment to share with me your quotes, because I love understanding what living alone is like for people. Until then, I encourage you to go pick yourself some brain flowers.